Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I have the pleasure to be joined by my good friend Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and in this video, we are going to talk about the recent development at left guard. Andy Reid and Kingsley Morris spoke to the media yesterday, and they had some very interesting things to say. But Josh, my first question for you is, how confident are you that Kingsley can make that transition to left guard?
I'm pretty optimistic about it. That said, well, I've been optimistic about it, but it is nice to hear Andy and Kingsley kind of talk about the confidence they have in him playing that position. I've already said it 100 times this offseason, but I'm going to say it again for this video. I've always felt like even if Kingsley doesn't work out at left tackle, there's a spot for him on this offensive line. He's got the measurables. He's got the athleticism, and I think, he was kind of put in an unfair situation at left tackle last season. I feel like they were kind of nonchalant about his development and just assumed that he was ready to go. He's going to step in. He was not ready whatsoever, and I think they're approaching his development a little bit differently this offseason. I think he feels a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more natural at guard, and I'm honestly really excited to see how he ends up performing there.
I couldn't agree more, and you actually mentioned it. Andy Reid spoke on Kingsley Morris, and he said, quote, "He looks more comfortable there. He's picking it up well. He has an opportunity to go against Chris Jones, so he'll be prepared for the season." And listen, if you're going up against Chris Jones in practice, you should be pretty well set against any other defensive tackle you're going to have to play, and that's a good thing. And so I think that, you kind of mentioned it, the Chiefs are handling his transition to left guard a lot better. And, it's kind of interesting to see even how they're treating Josh Simmons throughout this process. And yeah, he's, coming back from injury, but they're very, careful and cautious with his development. And it kind of seemed like last year they just threw Kingsley to the fire, and it didn't really work out. They benched him halfway through that second game. And I think that he definitely has a future at left guard. Right now, he seems like he is the left guard, and it's kind of his job to lose. And when you're fighting against Mike Caliendo for that spot, yeah, it's probably pretty safe to say you're going to have a shot to win it. And that's no shade at Mike Caliendo. He's just not a starting left guard in the NFL. And so Kingsley, with all of the athletic traits, should be the favorite to win that spot. And I do want to read this quote that is coming from Harold R. Kuntz on Twitter. Kingsley Morris says that he, quote, "fell in love with playing guard. After that game in Denver, he received good words from Zach Allen, and it motivated him to play well at his new position." And so I do think that he is taking it very well that he didn't work out at left tackle, and that this is almost a chance for him to reset, because, while it is kind of a humbling experience to fail at something, I think his attitude is pretty good.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that Kingsley is, again, approaching this in a very different way. That's very good for him, and I do think that it's not totally his fault the way things went last year. You did mention Mike Caliendo, and I do want to emphasize it's not necessarily disrespectful to Mike Caliendo, because I think, for being a guy that the Chiefs pretty much brought in with zero expectations, he's actually, he did a nice job, relatively speaking, filling in last year. There's no shame in him losing out on that position battle. But I think a lot of us would have been surprised had Kingsley not won that job.
Yeah, and listen, Mike Caliendo started at left guard in the Super Bowl, and part of that is due to injury, but hey, that's never going to be taken away from him. Now, he might not want to think about that Super Bowl very often and how he performed, but again, he was someone that the Chiefs relied on a lot last year, and he did step up in moments, and he allowed Joe Thuney to kick out to left tackle. But now, with the Chiefs' offensive line kind of being rebuilt to a certain extent, they drafted a left tackle, they signed one in free agency. The hope is that Kingsley can be your, future left guard for many years to come. And I think that, while it is early, he is going to be the heavy favorite to win that job and hopefully make the transition very well to his new position. I do want to talk more about this move, and we'll do that right after this ad break. The Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway is the place to be. With over 1,500 slot machines, 35 table games, 4 restaurants, and a new ESPN Bet sportsbook, there are plenty of ways to find your fun. For more chances to win, follow them on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Rice Real Estate Group, they're more than just a real estate team. They're a full-service partner in residential, commercial, and investment properties. They specialize in guiding clients through every stage, from the buying and selling process to handling complex, short sale situations with ease. Their passion lies in the personal one-on-one care they bring to every client relationship, ensuring each experience is tailored, smooth, and successful. Here it's all about building trust, delivering expertise, and ensuring every client feels valued throughout their journey. For more information, call Marla Rice at 816-819-9333. Huge thanks to the sponsors that support this channel all off-season long. Now, Josh, getting back into it, I want to ask the question, because we so often talk about, Kingsley Suamataia not working out at left tackle, and that, he's basically a shoe-in to play left guard. What do you think's going to happen with Wanya Morris? Because this is a guy that has versatility all over the offensive line, and this is actually something that Kingsley said that he's been working on. He's trying to get more familiarity with all of the positions and making himself more valuable to Andy Reid. But what do you think Wanya Morris's role is going to be in 2025?
I'm really glad you asked me that question, because I kind of feel like I'm Wanya Morris's biggest cheerleader, because I think after his performance at left tackle last year, everyone just completely forgotten about him. And while I don't think he's going to start on any place on the line this year, I think he's very clearly your number 6 offensive lineman that's going to step in if there's an injury anywhere on that line. And he's versatile enough that he can play just about anywhere on the line. But I think more importantly, when looking at Wanya Morris, I think this is a guy that potentially could be your right tackle of the future when Jawaan Taylor departs next year, because Wanya Morris also got run at right tackle when Jawaan Taylor was dealing with an injury late in the year, and I thought he looked pretty good, and I also think that's his more natural position. And there's no shame in saying that, because I know Wanya was another guy they brought in thinking he could be the left tackle, but I just think he's more natural on the right side of the line as far as tackle goes. And, ultimately, he's still someone that, worst case scenario, can fill in at left tackle. He's very clearly your number 6 offensive lineman.
Well, to cut Wanya Morris some slack, he was dealing with an injury last year. And so a lot of the time that he was playing left tackle, he wasn't fully healthy. And so I don't think that's the only reason why it didn't work out. But you saw later on in the year when he played right tackle, and I think he also played right guard in an instance where Trey Smith was a little bit banged up.
Yeah.
He looked pretty serviceable. And that's something that, the Chiefs should not be forgetting, especially in a battle where, I think Kingsley Suamataia is obviously the front runner to be the left guard, but at the same time, he hasn't earned anything. Not anything in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you could say that for most of this offensive line this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a lot of new faces at a lot of positions, and there's going to be, I think, a grace period we should give them, because it's going to take some time for them to gel, and that includes Kingsley at left guard, because not only is he new there, but he's going to have someone new to the left of him as well. And I think it was so easy having Joe Thuney on that side for so long. He could help out the left tackle and vice versa. But it's going to be some new faces this year, and they got to kind of learn to play together.
When the hope is that even though the Chiefs have all of these new faces to the offensive line, that the product is overall better. Because guess what? Last year, it wasn't very good. And
well, I think the upside's higher, and that's the important thing.
The upside's higher, and they also, I think, have more athletes, which is very good.
For sure.
And I just think that, last year they were kind of, handicapped with the guys that they had, and, not having really any serviceable options at left tackle. Now you have 2 options at left tackle, and if one doesn't work out, he could maybe be a left guard. But that's a conversation for a different video. Josh, to kind of recap what we've been talking about, Andy Reid spoke about Kingsley Suamata'ia's development, and he said that he's picking it up well, and he looks more comfortable at left guard. And Kingsley is excited for the challenge of potentially going into training camp with a chance to win that starting left guard spot. So Chiefs Kingdom, I want to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. What do you guys think about this news? Are you excited to see Kingsley make that transition to the interior offensive line? Because I think that if he goes out there in training camp and, goes out there with a mission, he should get that job, and he should be the left guard of the future. But Josh, I think that's all we have for this video. With that being said, my final question for you is, where can the people find your stuff?
You can find me here on YouTube, channel name Show Me Football. Check out my work on showmefootball.com, and you can also follow me on Twitter at ShowMeFB.
And guys, all that stuff will be linked in the description of this video. Hit that like button, subscribe for more daily Chiefs content. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and as always, go Chiefs.